What is engineering?
Engineering colleges raise concerns about
India's crisis of engineering education.
पहला तनाव होता है कि इंजीनियर बनना ही होगा.
What is engineering?
the quality of engineers being produced.
Indian engineers who used to dream of
दूसरा तनाव होता है कि
What is engineering?
finding a promising job
इंजीनियर बनना ही नहीं.
Is engineering?
get into their final year.
इन तीनों की दुविधाओं,
Engineering.
Engineering
खुशियों
Engineering.
और सपनों
guide.
Well, I'm Goutham. I'm from Kerala and I'm doing BTech Mechatronics in Manipal. Things about myself, I think a very significant thing would be coffee. I love coffee a lot and I'm a sucker for a good view and I'm a workaholic. So, yeah. There's the whole thing about how for some people drinking coffee was the best experience they had during the war, because that was the only peaceful time. It was just war, it was just coffee and a piece of bread. Oh fuck, it's hot. So I was born in Maharashtra, Mumbai. Then I lived for a while in Malaysia. Then for a while back in Kerala, Mumbai again, and then finally Saudi Arabia for a bit. And then for my 11th and 12th, I came to Mangalore, and now I'm in Manipal. You can see peacocks there quite often. There's 3 or 4 of them. This keeps coming down. Sometimes there's a dog that keeps chasing them around. It's fun to watch them run around. So my fascination with engineering, or like physics pretty much, started when I was really young. I started collecting Beyblades when I was pretty young. I still collect them. I still have a big collection of them. I think I used to change parts and figure out what spins faster, the aerodynamics and mechanics involved in all that. And I was pretty much into it. Plus cartoons like Dexter's Laboratory, the professor from Powerpuff Girl, they seem like characters who knew stuff. So I think that's what I got inspiration from. Plus the whole, so when I was in Malaysia, my mom and I, we used to sit in the balcony and she used to, every night we used to look at the stars and she used to tell me these fascinating stories about stars. And I think when I was 6 or something, she got me this book on meteorites, which was really fascinating. And I think that impacted my decision of to take a path that's related to science eventually. So yeah, engineering. MIT Manipal, it wasn't my first choice per se, but I wanted to do something different, and Mechatronics was one of the options that I thought was available, which was good and different from the core branches, and plus it's something that's the future pretty much lies in mechatronics automation. So, and MIT seemed to be one of the places that was well versed in that branch of engineering. I have a lot of passions, I have a lot of hobbies that I do, but to summarize that into a passion, I think I'd use the word design. How a particular piece can create something, the creation of something that enables a particular movement or an innovation. That's basically what I'm driven by. And the other passion would be physics, like I mentioned. So I think it's a balance of design and physics, that is creation and understanding of what's already there. So yeah, I think design would be where my passion lies. Top priority right now, I'm doing my project right now. It's my project semester and I'm working on animal prosthetics focused on wildlife. So the priority right now is to do something that will help me further in my higher studies. But considering the situation right now, COVID and everything, I'm considering of taking a year gap, probably figure out what I'm going to do after that. So top priority is, I think, figuring out what I'm going to do next. Yeah. Before I get into why I'm doing the project, I'll tell you what it's about. So, like I mentioned before, prosthetics for wildlife. Taking the last year as an example, 2020 as an example, we know how much nature is impacted by human activities and stuff. And one of the very fundamental things affected with this, more than humans in fact, is the small ecosystems of wildlife. So one of the major factors that affect them is when forest fires or other natural disasters happen because of man-made incidents. A lot of injured animals, they're taken away from their habitat. Even though they're given medication and treatment for their injuries, they're not brought back into the habitat, because a lot of them lose their limbs, a lot of them lose their capability of walking. And even though they're recovered, the habitat is completely lost. That ecosystem is completely lost. So me and a group of 2 other people, what we're planning to do is we are planning to make a four-limb prosthetic that will impact wildlife directly. This four-limb prosthetic can be used as a replacement for a lost limb, and in such a way that these animals can be sent back to the wild, and their odds of survival will be almost equal to how it was before when they had their limbs. So that way the ecosystem is not impacted as much, and the habitat is probably self-sustained. And how it's going to help me in my future, again, the prosthetic part of it is design based, and I want to do something based on design, and there is a lot of kinematics and aerodynamics involved in this as well. So my future plan revolves around either aerospace engineering or industrial design. So in either way, this project is going to be pretty important for it. So the project is about design of four-limb prosthetics for quadrupeds. Quadrupeds are animals that walk on all their limbs, 4 of their limbs, in this case quadra, and these 2 are forelimbs and these 2 are hind limbs. These are the different types of prosthetics available for animals these days. And then comes the very crucial compliant component. To define what a compliant mechanism is, it's basically like rigid body mechanisms but with no flexions or screws and stuff like that. It's the part that has to bend is flexible rather than a combination of 2 joints. The project really revolves around the gait cycles. Gait essentially means the way of walking these animals and analyzing how they do it. So there's a lot of advantages that compliant mechanisms have over these normal rigid body mechanisms. They're lighter, they're faster, they have better reliability and all that stuff. We can design them according to the pressure we want. We don't have to adjust them after making them and stuff like that. So these are the main types of walking cycles and gait cycles that a quadruped has, specifically a dog in this case. So one is walking, as you all know. One is trotting, which is basically walking but in a faster pace. Then pacing, which comes the running part. Then galloping, which means extreme running. If you've ever seen a cheetah run behind a prey, you must have seen it jump a lot in a way. So that's pretty much galloping. The aim of this project is basically to manufacture a working full limb prosthetic to eliminate the usage of special use prosthetics for quadrupeds. So a big issue in the prosthetic industry for animals is basically the fact that people need to buy different types of different kinds of prosthetics to take their pets to different terrains or like different events. For swimming, it's another prosthetic. For walking, it's another one. For running, it's another one. So it's not a single-use prosthetic is really not available in the market right now. So combining this and the fact that the most depraved of prosthetics is prosthetic research, in fact, is the wildlife. Taking wild animals from their ecosystem, it does save an injured animal to survive, but nevertheless it still affects the ecosystem. That is one of the biggest problems in the world right now. If you fix their leg, provide them with a particular prosthetic which supports their legs, the problem is you can't send them back because they wouldn't have a high enough survival rate to sustain themselves, live by themselves, which again affects the ecosystem. Now, how we can help this is by making a single compliant mechanism based prosthetic which will help send back the animals from the wild that have lost their limbs and would provide them pretty much the same amount of survival rate they had prior to the injury. So that will help sustain the environment, the ecosystems, which is very crucial. That's the main aim of this project. What we're focusing here is about a complete amputation. Like not just part of the forelimb, the complete amputation. Initially what we were going for was a compliant mechanism with a hydraulic component. A hydraulic pump for damping and for locomotion, helps in locomotion as well. So that was the initial plan combined with the compliant mechanism. So a compliant mechanism like this. Being reminded that the main objective of the project was to send wildlife back to the outside. Hydraulic systems or air-based systems, they do not have a retentive lifespan. The thing is they get damaged pretty quick, and even a small tear or jam in the system that can cause pretty much the whole mechanism to stop working. So that's a huge risk to take. It can still be applied for pets because they can be taken care of, but for wildlife, keeping a track of them again and again is going to be really, really tough. So it didn't seem like a good idea. So what we started focusing on was making a fully compliant mechanisms, but adding this 5-bar geared mechanism. This one. So this is the chart drawn at the positions of the gait cycle, and this is what it looks like for one leg. Using several equations, blah blah blah, we came up with one sketch of what it could be. This is a rough sketch of what the gear mechanism is going to look like. The next step would be to go ahead with CATIA, make a model, and use ANSYS to simulate it. But because of COVID and the restrictions, we didn't have access to labs, and this laptop really can't run ANSYS to full-fledged. The other option that we have, since we have to submit it, is use a experimental software on MATLAB called DAS 2D. Still trying to figure out how DAS works. It's not a very widely used method. So there was a paper that we read with a patent in it. If we could combine them, their software and circuit that takes in brain impulses and sends it, if we could take that from them and implement it here, which would be a great success. But like that's far-fetched, or probably something that we could do in the future after finishing this. Yeah, if it does what it does, we'll probably patent it, I guess. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The artist Giacometti was walking across the street, and this was back when he was pretty poor, and he saw a dog crossing the same lane. He could feel that the dog felt what he was feeling. Exactly, a poor dog who is starving, doesn't have a lot to eat, is not doing so well, clearly, because it can't hunt for food. Prior to this, most of the sculptures were pretty much, how do I say, fine art stuff, Renaissance, pre-Renaissance kind of stuff. if you compare that to paintings, if you compare Impressionism, Expressionism and all that, Cubism and stuff to paintings, this is where modernism took into sculptures. So yeah, it's called The Dog by Giacometti. Version of it. I think I started the account. I had an Instagram handle before itself, but it was mainly just, the normal Instagram account, selfies and pictures of myself and all that stuff. It was pretty shit. Can I say the word shit?
No.
Okay. This guy Abhijit and I, we actually went into fire to click this picture, so the smoke and everything is not actually edited. There was flying particles and it was actually inside fire. So in third semester is when I started editing some photos with my friends, and I was pretty new to editing softwares. It was just on my phone, and then I just sat down, and once I went back home again just revisited some of my paintings, and I thought I think I should start creating again. And that's when the Nocturnal G3 became the Nocturnal G3. I started making new stuff, not just portraits or anything like that, just art pieces that I think provokes people. And I truly believe that art by itself, it's intended to provoke. Whatever you make, if it's art, it has to provoke, create any sense of feeling, one person or the other. And that's where it began. Third semester. So this painting, it's basically like a replica of this, but with like a more meaningful sense to it. Andy Warhol actually made like a painting of Marilyn Monroe. Another pop art piece, nothing deep about it, just there's something fashionable that rich people would buy. That's pretty much it, no depth to it, nothing. So I thought, let's just combine it with the most significant discovery of, let's say, the last decade, which is like a way of taking the picture of an actual black hole. So I substituted a dead superstar with technically a dead star, which is a black hole. So yeah, that's what this piece is about. I also posted this on the birthday of Einstein on 14th March. Yeah, well, pretty much he created the perspective of the world that we live in today, so it's crazy. I ended up calling this piece Digital Post-Impressionism, pun intended. My last post, it focused on the strokes and the style of Van Gogh. While posting them, one of the saved images, it turned quite corrupt and it ended up looking like this, which made it look like it left an impression. The title of this piece takes into account that Van Gogh was a post-impressionist artist, and the fact that the piece was a result of impressions left over due to the bad compression while posting. So it's kind of a funny title, but also like something that gives it meaning. So yeah, I like this piece a lot. The thing is, during the US elections, which is very important, in fact, it would have probably decided the future of the world, believe me or not. I kept like a folder separate if Trump won the elections, what I'd post, and what if Biden won the elections, what I'd post. It's more of Trump losing rather than Biden winning, so yeah. And the Trump folder was empty. I was that sure that Trump would lose. If you remember, in 2015, when he announced that he's gonna run for the election, he came down his golden elevator from Trump Tower. And this is just a depiction of him going back to his penthouse using the same elevator. after he's lost the elections. And not an elevator, an escalator. And since he's pretty much bankrupt right now and doesn't have money, he's just trying to collect these the gold embedded into his gold escalator using buckets. But since it's Trump and he can't do anything right, these buckets are made of plastic, so if you collect molten metal in them, this is what happens. So it's just a depiction of how much I despise this man, I guess. So yeah, that's another piece that I like a lot. Like, it's coming to close, right? Submission. So I put the whole freelance work and everything to as a side, and now I'm mainly focusing on, I recently started learning Blender, so that's going well.
So it's on a loop, right?
Yeah. So back then I used to talk to myself a lot, and I had this secret friend that I used to talk to. His name was G3, and I think this became really prominent in 3rd grade, and in 3rd grade my roll number was 3, my bus number was 3, and in some shit race I came number 3, so 3 was like a significant number that year, and I started calling my alter ego G3, I guess. So yeah, maybe that's an origin story. I don't know, maybe this is the alter ego and G3 is the real one. I've always wanted to do something like something with art, contribute something to the society of art and the history of art, in fact. And the whole idea of Da Vinci was like a great inspiration, because he was a very prominent scientist and very prominent painter of his era. So I think although it might not be a career option per se, it will be something that I'll be doing for the rest of my life, because I can't stop creating. It's a part of me now, and I think I speak for all artists as I say, doing art helps you cope with whatever's going on in your life, and that's what most of your art is defined by, what you go through and what you become through experiences. So yeah, I think once you're an artist, it doesn't really go away. So yeah, I'll be doing graphic design and artwork for the rest of my life, but probably not as a main career choice. So the blank 101 stands for, and I had a whole idea of, so this particular part was a simple box, right? So I thought things people like, a certain symbol they like, they can add to it, but that didn't work out, it was too expensive. So for example, Praneeth likes Van Gogh a lot, so I thought I just entered in some strokes of Van Gogh into this and I gave it to him. And for me, I think those wires they put in prisons, right? The guard near the walls and stuff. Yeah, so that's one of the first designs I made on Illustrator. That's where it all started. So I was having those over here, but it didn't work out. And the best part of this hoodie is I'm wearing it. It has this. Check this out. It's got this blank right on the head, so that's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's like in between, dude. There's a little bit of green grass and there's a little bit of brown. When I came to my first shoot, it was completely green. This was one day before the editing interviews. Yeah, that's the first time I touched the DSLR. Good space, right? It's damn slippery.
Yeah. Oh, wait, lines. Yeah, no. Maybe. Oh, wait, I can wait.
Oh, yeah.
Flare is good.
So good. Quite an elaborate answer for this one. That's where do I see myself in 10 years? It's a tough one. I really don't know. The thing is, when I started studying engineering, till the third semester, I didn't know that I'd be clicking images right now or designing stuff on. I didn't have Illustrator on my laptop till like the beginning of fourth semester. So I don't know. Life is pretty much unpredictable, and I think that's what makes life really, exciting in a way, challenging. Oh, that's somewhere in Kerala. I know the exact place. So, my mom's best friend. I used to stay at his home for a while during vacation. So he used to take me on these trips. It was near Thrissur and the Tamil Nadu border, those places. The trek was insane there. In 10 years, I don't know, I'd like to think that I'll be happy and probably not settled by choice. And yeah, I think we'll all be wearing masks here and there.
That's for sure.